Nice that you are watching this video. In this video we are going to talk about the album Midnights by Taylor Swift. Midnights is the 10th studio album by the American singer-songwriter Taylor Swift. Released on October 21, 2022. She conceived it as a concept album about nocturnal ruminations inspired by her sleepless nights. The confessional lyrics explore emotions such as regret, self-criticism, fantasies, heartbreak and infatuation, with allusions to her personal life and public image. Swift and co-writer Jack Antonoff produced the standard edition of Midnights, which features a subdued electronic soundscape characterized by mid-tempo rhythms, analog synthesizers, sparse drum machine beats, and digitally manipulated vocals. Music critics categorize the genre as synth pop, electropop, dream pop, and bedroom pop, with electronica, hip-hop, R&B, and alternative elements. Soundwave, Jahan Sweet, and Keanu Beats co-produced 2 tracks. Antonoff and Aaron Dessner co-produced songs for an extended 3 a.m. edition that was surprise-released 3 hours after the standard edition. Swift announced Midnights at the 2022 MTV Video Music Awards and unveiled the standard track list via the video-sharing platform TikTok. Midnights topped the charts across Europe, Asia Pacific, and the Americas. In the United States, it became Swift's 11th consecutive #1 album on the Billboard 200, her 5th to sell over 1 million first-week copies, and the best-selling album of 2022. Its songs made Swift the first artist to monopolize the top 10 of the Billboard Hot 100, with the lead single, Anti-Hero, peaking at #1. The successive singles, Lavender Haze and Karma, peaked at #2. Music critics regarded Midnights as an amalgamation of Swift's past albums, highlighting the synth production and narrative lyrics. They praised her songwriting for engaging compositions and narratives. Most complimented the production as restrained and tasteful, although some found it derivative. Midnights was featured on numerous rankings of the best albums of 2022 and won accolades that included Album of the Year and Best Pop Vocal Album at the 66th Annual Grammy Awards, 2024. Making Swift the first artist to win the former category 4 times. Taylor Swift began her career as a Nashville-based country musician in the 2000s, and transformed into a mainstream pop star in the 2010s. Shifted Swift's status from a mainstream pop star to an acclaimed songwriter. She began re-recording her first 6 studio albums starting from November 2020. Following a 2019 dispute between her and the music executive Scooter Braun, who acquired Swift's former record label Big Machine and the masters of her albums. The re-recordings masters would be owned by Swift, enabling her to have full licensing rights of her songs for commercial use. Her first 2 re-recorded albums, Fearless, Taylor's version, and Red, Taylor's version, both 2021, both garnered more album equivalent units than their original counterparts, Fearless and Red, in the same time period. Critics and academics deemed Swift's re-recordings a key event contributing to a wider industry discourse on artists' rights and artist-label relationships. Amidst the re-recording projects, Swift sparked speculation on new music when she appeared as a guest at Haim's One More Haim Tour concert in London in July 2022. It was her first concert performance since 2019. At the 2022 MTV Video Music Awards on August 28, during her acceptance speech for Video of the Year, she announced a new studio album, slated for release on October 21. The announcement attracted media attention and increased the show's viewership ratings. After the show, Swift revealed the album title Midnights on her social media. On music streaming platforms, Midnights was labeled pop which attracted media speculation on its sound after the alternative, labeled Folklore and Evermore. Swift wrote 11 out of the 13 tracks for the standard edition of Midnights with Jack Antonoff, who had co-written for all of her albums starting with 1989 in 2014. She wrote Vigilante Shit, Alone and Sweet Nothing with Joe Alwyn, who is credited under the pseudonym William Bowery. Co-writers include Zoe Kravitz and Sam Dew, Lavender Haze, Jahan Sweet and Soundwave, Lavender Haze, and Karma, and Keanu Beats, Karma. Lana Del Rey co-wrote and featured on Snow on the Beach. An extended 3 a.m. edition containing 7 additional tracks was written by Swift, who co-wrote 4 tracks with Antonoff and 3 with Aaron Dessner. Dew and Soundwave also shared writing credits on the track Glitch. Swift conceived Midnights as a concept album about her 13 sleepless nights, informed by 5 themes: self-hatred, revenge fantasies, wondering what might have been, falling in love, and falling apart. Midnight had recurred as a lyrical motif in her songs, representing romantic sentiments of vulnerability, yearning, or being haunted by past memories. Expanding on these connotations, Midnights explores Swift's psyche during the after hours. Its autobiographical songs are backward-looking contemplations on her life, using confessional lyrical details that allude to her personal life and public image. The songs address diverse moods and emotions: self-criticism, self-confidence, ruminations on past decisions, hopes, fears, regrets, fantasies, and infatuation. Some music journalists argued that the broad themes resulted in Midnights being a loosely defined concept album. Alan Light of Esquire thought that the concept album designation was questionable, despite the songs altogether constructing a cohesive record. Many songs are about those emotions ensuing from love. Maroon is about the haunting memories of a long-gone romance, while Snow on the Beach describes 2 people falling in love with each other at the same time. Swift ruminates over a broken relationship and how things could have turned out differently in Question, and ponders the anxiety of falling in love again in Labyrinth. Many songs address Swift's fame and how it intertwines with her personal life. According to the New York Times' Lindsay Zoladz, these songs find Swift no longer seeing marriage as ideal, as depicted by her 2008 single, Love Story, and instead convey her ambivalent viewpoints on romance and adulthood. Lavender Haze details the online tabloid scrutiny that she received for her relationship. In Anti-Hero, she details her insecurities and how her celebrity status hinders her from having meaningful relationships. You're on Your Own, Kid is an introspection on Swift's rise to fame and how alienating it was. In Midnight Rain, Swift reflects on a forgone love back in her hometown and how she chose fame over a domestic life. Labyrinth hints at the pressure she faces in the spotlight, a sentiment that is also addressed in Sweet Nothing, which describes a calming romantic relationship amidst the chaos of the outer world. In the standard edition's Closer, Mastermind, Swift admits to her lover that she is the one strategizing every move of their relationship, and makes fun of her image as a calculating woman. The songs, Vigilante Shit, and Karma, have lyrics that conjecture revenge fantasies against one's rivals. In the former, Swift's character sides with the ex-lover of her nemesis in a revenge plot. The latter has comical lyrics about how Swift benefits from karma. Her righteous actions reward her with good outcomes in life, and she need not worry about sabotaging her rivals. Self-assurance is the theme of Bejeweled, which depicts finding one's self-worth after a breakup. The 3 a.m. edition tracks have varied themes. The Atlantic's Shirley Lee considered them more cathartic and metaphorical than the standard tracks. The Great War references World War I as an analogy of heartbreak, while would've, could've, should've uses religious imagery to describe an adult woman's reflection on her traumatic loss of innocence during her adolescence. The vague, mournful lyrics of Bigger Than the Whole Sky are about losing something so soon without mentioning what exactly was lost. Glitch is about how an original plan of staying friends with somebody strays away to become a romance, and Paris sees Swift fantasizing about a romance in Paris while in her bedroom. In High Infidelity, Swift's character takes responsibility for a failed relationship with no regrets. The 3 a.m. closing track, Dear Reader, sees Swift beseeching her audience not to look up to her as a guiding light. Swift recorded much of Midnights at Antonoff's home studio, Rough Customer, in Brooklyn and Electric Lady Studios in Greenwich Village, New York City. The two produced all tracks for the standard edition. 2 tracks created with other producers are Lavender Haze, Soundwave, Jahan Sweet, and Karma, Soundwave, Keanu Beats. Soundwave created a first demo for Lavender Haze by experimenting with different sounds and hitting one button by accident. He and Antonoff added vocal samples from Braxton Cook, and Swift helped complete the final production. After Lavender Haze, Antonoff asked Soundwave if he had any additional music that could be suitable for Midnights. He then pitched to Antonoff a sample that Beats had created in 2019, and the production for the final track, Karma, completed after 1 day. Midnights departs from the indie folk sound of its 2 immediate successors, Folklore and Evermore, and incorporates a prominent electronic production. Antonoff used the Yamaha DX7 and Oberheim OB8 synths to create the drafts, and the final melodies are generated by retro synths, including analog synthesizers that date back to the 1960s or 1970s such as Moog, Mellotron, and Juno 6. The compositions incorporate sparse drum machine beats and synthesized or electronically manipulated vocals. 2 tracks where programming is less prominent: a You're on Your Own, Kid, which is driven by electric guitar strums, and Sweet Nothing, by an electric piano and horns. Swift's words, vocals, and Antonoff's production emphasize rhythms. The production is minimalist. Mark Hirsch from Entertainment Weekly described it as maximalist minimalism, with a characteristically muted beat. The songs are predominantly mid-tempo and incorporate subdued tones of instruments such as saxophone, clarinet, flutes, and keyboards, played by members of the pop-rock band Bleachers, of which Antonoff is the frontman. Reviews in contemporary publications mostly categorize Midnights as synth-pop and electropop. Music critics deemed the album a throwback to the pop sounds of Swift's 1989, Reputation, and Lover, but its atmospheric production makes it relatively subdued and understated. NPR's Ann Powers wrote that the sound might be called a historical chill-out music, with a soft and mutable glow that stimulated an intimate and isolated atmosphere. Rob Sheffield of Rolling Stone said Midnights was nocturnal, moody electro dream pop. Andy Von Pip from Under the Radar called the sound ambient electronic pop, and Ellen Johnson from Paste deemed the album an incorporation of poptronica. Chris Willman of Variety Chris Willman considered the Midnights tracks to resemble the quieter, mid-tempo and undermoments of Swift's pop albums, and Quinn Morland of Pitchfork wrote that Midnights built on the softly stuttering Reputation tracks, Delicate, and Dress. Times Shannon Carlin and The Ringer's Rob Harvilla deemed it a foray into bedroom pop. Midnights incorporates influences of other genres such as R&B, electronica, and hip-hop. Showcased through the synthesizers and vocal manipulations, Swift's voice is multi-tracked and, on Midnight Rain and Labyrinth, pitched down to a low register that critics found masculine or androgynous. Powers wrote that Swift's vocals retained a country-influenced, relaxed timbre but also interpolated hip-hop cadences that resulted in conversational sing-talking. Elements of electronica are demonstrated on Snow on the Beach and Bejeweled, electro-hip-hop on Lavender Haze, Midnight Rain, and Vigilante Shit, and R&B on Lavender Haze, Maroon, Midnight Rain, The Great War, and Glitch. Midnight Rain and Labyrinth also incorporate dubstep-influenced bass and house and trap-inspired beats. In Vulture, Craig Jenkins dubbed Midnights a genre reset, attempting to hybridize synth pop and R&B. Two other Vulture critics, the journalist Charlie Harding and the musicologist Nate Sloan, said the album evoked a variety of dance and club genres, such as techno, UK garage, and jungle. This is demonstrated by the Reese bass, a low-pitched synth bass sound that is incorporated into tracks such as Lavender Haze, Anti-Hero, and Karma. Harding said the Reese bass gave the album a dark and subterranean feel. Elise Ryan from the Associated Press and Lucy Harbron from Gigwise considered Midnights an experimental album. Ryan deemed it a move toward indie pop, and Andrew Unterberger from Billboard described it as alt-leaning synth pop. Ilana Kaplan of the Alternative Press and Stephen Thomas Erlewine of AllMusic said that in addition to the electronic sound, Midnights incorporated alternative elements and contemplative lyricism that evoked folklore and evermore. Employing a minimalist design, the Standard Edition's cover artwork contains a square photo of Swift in blue eyeshadow, black eyeliner, and red lipstick, holding the flame of a lighter close to her face. The photo is at the bottom right corner, occupying half of the cover, and bordered on the top and left sides by off-white negative space. The tracklist is on the bottom left, and the title Midnights is written in a blue gradient, printed on top of Swift's photo. The tracklist presentation is reminiscent of vinyl album jackets common in the 1970s. Several 1970s cultural items that were listed by journalists as potential reference points for the Midnights cover include the English band Roxy Music's 1974 album Country Life, the French artist Guy Bourdin's photographs for Vogue France, and the English model Jean Shrimpton, as discussed by Jess Cartner-Morley and Alex Bilmes. Several other analyses aligned the Midnights cover with the indie sleaze trend of the 2000s decade. Sheffield named the ultra-chill dance CD compilations from the early 2000s as a potential influence. The cover created a trend and was parodied by many brands, celebrities, and athletic teams. Other promotional visuals for Midnights also feature 1970s aesthetics. The photographs and videos that Swift posted onto social media featured a clock face, family room furniture with retro upholstery, and a rust velvet curtain in the background. Her wardrobe incorporated embellishments that Vogue identified as disco sequins and corduroy flair. The covers for 3 other physical editions all feature 1970s memorabilia, a retro piano, a push-button telephone, and a wood-paneled wall. Their reverse sides each portray a quarter sector of a dial and, when assembled together and combined with a clock mechanism sold separately, form a functioning clock. The music videos for Anti-Hero, Bejeweled, and Lavender Haze feature Swift in 1970s fashion, houndstooth polo sweaters, ribbed knit trousers, and sequined bodysuits. This was the video. Next time we will continue about the album Midnights by Taylor Swift. Don't forget to subscribe. Till next time. Bye.